Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen right now. I've got a PowerPoint up. Someone could just give me like a thumbs up or something to let me know that I am actually talking. Or people can hear me. All right, there we go. Cool. Thank you. So I'm gonna minimize that. I do need to keep this open just in case. Ooh, all right. So this is the application workshop for the artist support grant for Region 3. My name is John Berger. I'm the executive director at Craven Arts Council and Gallery in New Bern, North Carolina. Um, the way this grant works is that the state is broken up into regions. Craven Arts Council, acts as the regional administrator for Region 3, covering Carteret, Craven, Duplin, Jones, Lenoir, Onslow, and Pamlico counties. So if you live in one of those counties for more than 6 months out of the year, you would apply. The application would come to my organization. You can give your application to your local arts council and they will forward it along to me. That's fine. But the online application is at our website. And we will eventually receive them all and oversee the process. If you live in a different area, you're free to watch the webinar, and a lot of the information is going to stay the same. It's just that you would not apply to me, and I would encourage you to direct any specific questions to whoever your local administrator would be, which just wouldn't be me. Like it says on the front page here, microphones are muted, but feel free to unmute and ask questions. Also, feel free to put questions in the chat. Whatever's put in the chat, I won't see it till the end of the webinar. So if it's something you want to ask, but it's not, you don't want to ask it right that moment, feel free to put it there and I will try to answer them all by the end of this. All right. So we got the artist support grant. Provides direct support to individual artists for professional artistic development. So pretty much this grant is, I'm going to summarize a lot of this because a lot of this is just contained on our website. So I'm going to try and say it in more layman's terms and understandable ways. It's really to help you get to the next level as an artist, whatever that next level is, whether you're emerging or established. The Arts Council understands that sometimes you need a little financial help to move on to that next level. And just full disclosure and a note here, I received this grant myself in 2014. So I've been on this process before I worked for arts councils or full-time for arts councils. I received this grant. So I've been on it, both sides as both an applicant, a funded artist, and as an administrator. So the fund was created after COVID-19. Now, if you say, wait, haven't you had grants like this before? Yes, it used to be called the Regional Artist Project Grant before 2020. The big difference is at least for right now, the Arts Council is allowing you to use up to 50% of it for artist funds. And we'll talk about that in a second. B, they broke the regions into much smaller areas, which increases the odds of artists and local small communities of getting the grants, which is something we asked for a long time. Our old region used to be 27 counties and they only gave 12 grants out. Now our region is 8 counties and we give usually 9 grants out. It depends on exactly how much is how many applications and how much people are asking for. Eligibility. So it's a broad range of eligibility: visual, performing, literary, interdisciplinary. We try to keep it as open as possible and try and be an open-minded about disciplines as we possibly can. It can be emerging or established. And you demonstrate a commitment to spending a significant time on your work as artists. This does not mean that we expect all of the artists that get funded to be full-time professional artists. We love full-time professional artists and they can receive the grant as well, but you can also be an emerging artist who really just wants to set aside some time every week to do your work, and this grant can help you with that. So don't think that line about commitment to spending a significant portion means you've got to quit your job. We understand that you have to pay your bills, so it does not mean that. But it does mean that you're going to take some time over the funding period to really create some new work or work on a specific type of project. Individuals, usually it's individuals, but small unincorporated groups of artists can apply. I've never heard a cap on that number, but I've never seen any more than I'd say 5 artists get funded as a small group, because if you think about it, the max award is $1,000. At that point, it's how do you work it out and things like that. You do need to live in the region you were applying for 1 year prior to deadline. If you have a question about that, please hit me up if it's really close. If you moved from another part of the state to this region, you may still be eligible. If you moved from out of the state into this region, I do believe that makes you ineligible. If you live in 2 places, some people have a house, 2 houses, they might split their time. Wherever you spend more than 6 months, that's the region you should be applying to, wherever you're living at the majority of the time. If you are doing a team and if you have questions about that, please feel to reach out. All artists do have to live within the region. It can't be, well, one artist lives here and the rest are going to be under their umbrella. And we'll need resumes and things like that for each artist. Now, if you have received an award from the North Carolina Arts Council for fiscal year 2021, you cannot get this award. What that means is if you already got an arts support grant last year, you can't get this one. You have to take a year off. You could apply next year if you got an award last year, but you could not apply this year. Also, if you received grassroots funds, you would not be eligible. That's normally for arts nonprofits, not individual artists though. So if you work with a nonprofit that got that grant, that does not count. Like, you can still apply for this even if you say did a performance for an organization that uses grassroots funds. As long as your art business did not receive that funding, it's okay. Now, if some of you received any of the NC Cares for the Arts money last fiscal year, I will have to double check with the state on how that affects this. I know that we at Craven Arts Council gave out some money to individual artists, but I don't know. That was a very special case having to deal with COVID. So I think the state might be willing to let you apply, but I would have to double check that one myself. If that is a question anyone has, please reach out to me and let me know, and I will gladly check with the state office. And if you are a board member or staff, or married to a board member or staff of my arts council or an arts council that is in my region, unfortunately, you cannot apply. One second. All right. So how's the grant evaluated? Artistic merit, that's number one, is we want to see your work. So there is a portfolio. We'll get really into the meat and bones of the application in a minute, but they want to see your work and that you are actively creating work. And they also want to see that you are creating work recently. I graduated college in 2012, so they don't want to see my work from college. They would want to see more recent work, things that show that I am still producing as an artist. Project merit. So we really want to see that your project is going to help your artistic career in some way. There are a lot of great projects out there that we would love to fund, but if it's not really going to advance your career as an artist, it's highly unlikely that we would fund it. I can give you the example of someone applied to create an exhibition space for other artists. And while we thought that was an excellent idea to showcase the work of other artists, we couldn't really see how it was going to advance their career, and the judges turned it down. I will also make this note. I do not get a vote on any of this. I'm a moderator, so I get to sit in on panel meetings and talk with the panelists, and I take notes, and I will be your point of contact if you would like to hear their notes, but I do not get a vote. So when I say we, I mean the panelists that I talk to, not myself. But I do sit in on the panel, so I can tell you a lot about what they say. And also the feasibility of the proposed project. There's some great project ideas, but you need to be able to accomplish it within the time frame of the grant. The time frame of the grant being, if you receive an award, you will get your money in likely November or December, and the money has to be spent by June 30th, 2022, and I need to have your final report by that date. You can still be working on the project until December 31st of 2022. It's one of those things where it has to do with fiscal years. The state is allowing you to take the full year of 2022 to do the project, but you do have to spend the money and give me a report. It's a little bit odd, but just so you're aware. What the grant will fund. These are a lot of kind of generic categories, but completion or presentation of a new work. Do you need to buy a bunch of paint and canvases or a welding machine? A lot of musicians have used it to get studio to, or not studio time, but I guess that's, time in a recording studio. It'll cover that. Career promotion, websites, portfolios. Do you have a lot of great work? I know jewelers have a hard time photographing their work because of the reflection and the sheen. So a lot of times they would like to get professional photographers. This can pay for that. It can pay for someone to build you a website. Last year with COVID-19, we paid for 2 established artists to set up online sales platforms for their work and buy shipping like boxes and peanuts and all that to help offset those costs for them, to really let them set up an online store and run that as a business. Training, if there's a workshop, if you're thinking, I really would love to go to Penland or Pocosin or any other type of workshop, a professional type of workshop for learning an artistic technique. And it could also even be more business development. I mean, you could ask to go to the Southeast Artistic Entrepreneurs Conference. That would be a valid thing, because you would go and learn about bookkeeping and legal liability and all that related to the artistic practice. That could be an eligible thing. And travel. One of the most interesting things I saw funded when I was at Pitt Arts Council was an artist wanted to go and look at all the art museums in DC. So, they wrote a really great application, and we funded them to go up there, and we paid for their gas and their hotel and their food. And some of the museums do require that you buy tickets, so we paid for that. One note with that is you cannot buy booze with any of the money. So if you do get funded for a trip, you cannot give me a receipt for alcohol. And with the artist support grant, last year and this year, we'll continue. If this, we haven't gotten a clear answer whether this will continue to be a part of the grant, but at least for now, including this year, up to half of the grant money can be used to pay you, the artist. The idea with that is that, maybe you need to not go into work as often, and you're going to suffer, some hour loss and some money loss for that. So 50% of your award can be used as an artist fee to help offset the cost of maybe you committing that time that we were speaking about towards your art. What we cannot fund: scholarships for undergraduate or graduate level education. We can't fund that. That's a state stipulation that's come up. Projects that support or oppose a particular candidate for office. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. You can, of course, make artwork, but you cannot buy a billboard denouncing a political figure. If there's a question about that, I'm happy to respond to it in a phone call or an email. Projects that are exclusive to members of a particular religious or a particular religious faith group. If you're going to do a community type based project, just make sure it's open to the public. You can't say, well, it's only for this. These are, by the way, these are mostly from the state. These are not anything we drafted up, but they are from the state's rules. Nonprofit initiatives. If you are a nonprofit, if you want to do something with your nonprofit, this is not the grant for that. Like I said, its goal is to promote your career as an artist. But I would encourage you to reach out to me or your local arts council if you're not in Craven Arts County. And every arts council offers grassroots grants, which are grants for nonprofits for artistic programming. So you could apply for that if that is your goal, is to do with a nonprofit. And projects that do not have an effect on your growth as a artist, i.e. promotion, that example of a exhibition space. The application process. So it's a pretty simple application compared to a lot of them I've seen. I mean, it does take some work. It's going to take, I would devote a day or two to getting all this stuff together and making sure it's ready. But I've seen much more complicated applications. So first thing is the narrative. So your narrative is where you're going to explain to us what your project is and how is this really going to affect your career. Now you also can separately include your artist statement is separate. You can submit that separately. So describe the project, what you're going to use, what's the money going for, what's it gonna, what is this grant going to let you do that you can't do now? If it's just it needs, that helps us really see that this is going to help you. And how's it going to advance your career? Again, project should be feasible. If you write a grant that's for a $50,000 project and we're giving you 1,000, and you don't identify where that other money is coming from. Now you can on your budget put that you have other money, which is fine. But if you don't identify that to us, it may not seem very feasible. It should be the next step. If you say, well, I want to, I've been working in the arts for 5 years as an artist for 5 years, and now I want to play at Carnegie Hall. That's not quite, that's going to seem like a big jump to us. And the more specific you can be, the better. Use simple declarative sentences, action voice, and you get 1,000 characters without spaces. So don't count your spaces. If you have a question, Microsoft Word and Google Docs both have a character counter for you. And if you need help with that, we can definitely help. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Who, what, when, yeah, where, why, how. Just as you read it, make sure you're answering those 5 questions. When is the project gonna, like, what are the, in January, I'm going to purchase this. And in February, I'm going to start doing this. You don't have to give us month by month, but definitely, say within this time frame, I'm going to do these things. Who's going to, is it all you, or are there people helping you? Where, do you have a studio space? Things like that. The narrative is not the artist statement. These are 2 separate things. So the narrative is about what the project is and how it helps you as an artist. Now you can definitely say something to the effect of, as I reference in my artist statement, this will help me in my artistic theme of XYZ. But you don't have to write your artistic statement in this document. It can be a separate document that you reference. And it's always a good idea to ask someone unconnected to the arts to read your application. To be very clear, our panel will be made up of experts in the field. Generally, community college professors is who I go to. And I do it by discipline. So we get at least 1 judge from every discipline that applies. Last year, I had musicians and visual arts. I had nothing from the other disciplines. So 1 second, let me let this person back. So because I only had musicians and visual artists, the panel was made up of musicians and visual artists. but the musicians still get a vote on the visual arts and the visual artists get a vote on the musicians. So just make sure that remember that while I will have judges related to your discipline, I will also have judges who are artists, but in a very different discipline. So it's good to have someone else read the application. And there we go. Budget. So there's a section on there where you list your expenses. You can also attach a separate page like an Excel spreadsheet. Um, and then income also. So the income can just be the grant. You don't have to put if your project costs $1,000 and you're asking for $1,000, you can just say, right here under description, artist support grant, $1,000. There is no matching requirement. You do not have to put any of your own money up for this project if it only costs within the grant parameters. You can also identify in-kind support. If there's a space rental that say someone's going to give you for free, but it would normally cost $500, you could put space rental 500 and under match, you would put that 500 and then you would total everything. More detail is better for this sort of stuff. So if you, in example 1 here, we've got travel 600. Now, while we might be able to say, yeah, that sounds about right, if you can point us to mileage, I believe 5.35 is what the IRS is now letting you take for mileage, but I'm not sure. Lodging, and you've identified the hotel, and meals, this is a much better, example 2 is a much better looking application. It identifies everything, and it makes a lot more sense to the panelists if they can see that travel broken down as several things. Provide supporting documentation. You can provide screen grabs or printed off web pages. You want to buy a kiln or something, well, here's what it costs, and here's the website of the manufacturer to prove it to us. Now, this is not required in any way. My advice would be, the more niche the thing you're buying, the more you need this. Like I said, the panelists are within our discipline. If there's a question, we will ask. If you're buying a jeweler's kiln, I will make sure there's a jeweler on the panel, and we'll say, hey, does that kiln really cost that? And if they say yes, great. But if you can provide us proof, then we don't even have to ask. And you can get quotes from people. You can attach that, emails, pictures of emails of quotes from people like that. Again, not required to spend your own money. If you do if your costs are, say, $1,200, the max grant is $1,000, then you do need to say where that other 200 is coming from, whether that be personal funds, your money, sales of artwork or something like that. That's okay. Just, your expenses and your income side needs to match. Resumes and bios. Okay, so sometimes we get bios, artist resumes, that it's more of their job resume. An artistic resume, we want to see what exhibits you've been in, what sort of training you've received, any artistic jobs you've had. And it can be volunteer positions, professional affiliations. If you're a member of the Twin Rivers Artists Association, or Carteret has an artist group, things like that. All of those are valid things for your artist resume. But this summer I worked at a dock. It probably shouldn't be on my artist resume. It's not really, unless in some way, I'm doing doing art about dock working, but otherwise it shouldn't really be on there. Panels, lectures, talks you've attended, and we're happy to look at those for you. And your artist resume really shouldn't be longer than 2 pages, I'll be honest. Put your strongest stuff first, and so that we see it. And CACG, my organization may do another webinar about artist resumes specifically next month, if we can fit it into our calendar. So if you are interested in that, email us to let us know that people are interested, and I will make it more of a priority if we get a lot of interest in it. If you have limited experience, I have interns, and I make all my interns do artist resumes, and generally they've been in a couple shows and things like that. That's okay. Just put what you got, and that's fine. But you know, make sure you get it all. It's a really good, I try and teach my interns, it's a good idea to keep a CV, which is the list of every single thing you've done. Because by the time you start doing a lot of artistic stuff, you might start forgetting some of the stuff you did in your early days. So, and if you have if you have a limited experience, it's a really good way for you and your narrative to say, hey, I've only done a couple shows, or I've only done live gigs and I've never been able to record my music, or I'm only in other people's publications, but I've never been able to publish my own book. That's why I need this money. That's you can argue that in your narrative, and that's a smart thing to do. Work samples, strong, high quality. You know, we need to really see that your work, see your work, and put your best foot forward. Show us your best work samples. It's probably going to be, honestly, the first thing the panelists look at, because there's a lot of reading involved in this, and we like to look at the images first. And I'll get more into work samples towards the end of this. You are limited in your number of work samples. We'll get to that in a second. So make sure they're your strongest. Try and make them the more recent. We do understand that sometimes some of your best work was done years ago. But try, if you do need to use an older piece, make sure you put some more recent ones in as well. Okay, don't make everything from 10 years ago. Maybe throw a piece from 10 years ago in there because it's really good. It was really well done, but put some more recent, make your others more recent. And make them relevant to a project you have proposed. We've gotten applications where really talented artists have applied, but really talented painter wanted to get the grant, but then all their samples were good, and the panelists liked the work, but their application was all about ceramics, and there were no ceramic pieces in the portfolio. Now you can apply to get equipment to change disciplines, but it can be really helpful if you have some samples that at least show you dipping your toes into that other discipline. They don't have to be fully fledged. If that painter had, say, bought some unglazed mugs and painted on them, they probably would have got a grant because they have at least dipped their toe in that new field. But it does need to be in some way relevant. We should get an inventory list, and we will talk about what should be on that inventory list, but in a second. So for dance and performing arts, you can have 3 work samples, 3 recordings. Total for the 3 videos should not be more than 10 minutes. Your inventory should include the date and location of the performance, title of the piece, names and roles of key people, especially what you did, and a short summary. You can put a little descriptor under it. You know, this video is from this performance I did with this group, that sort of thing. Please upload the video to another platform and then give us the link to the video, and I will show you our online version of the application in just a second. But please do not upload video. Video takes up a lot of space, and it can cause issues. So, and I have to get the applications out to the panelists. I can't email them videos. So it becomes difficult for me at that point to get the samples out, because some of our judges don't live close by. So I either have to mail them a thumb drive or figure out another way to get them the material. Music, again, very similar. 3 recorded performances, although you don't need video, it can be audio only. Again, 10-minute max for the 3. And date, location, performance, title of piece, short summary, those sorts of things. If you're a composer or songwriter, you can submit lyrics, scores, and things like that as well, or only. If you are a composer and you want to just do composition, you could just submit scores. I would recommend submitting at least one recording. And you can probably submit up to 3 of your scores and lyrics. Again, links are preferred. Writing, fiction, creative, nonfiction, playwrights, up to 12 pages of 1 or 2 manuscripts. So you can submit me 12 pages of one manuscript, or 4 pages of one and 8 pages of another, however you would like to break that down. That's okay. Poets may submit 5 to 7 poems, and playwrights may have recordings of performances, like not to exceed 5 minutes. And again, links preferred. Visual arts and crafts, up to 15 images of your work. I will tell you, don't feel like you have to go all the way to 15, but please make it more than 5. Okay. We've gotten them with 2, and it's really hard for the judges to evaluate and take that body of work into consideration when we only get. So I would make sure it's at least 5. 10 is probably the number I would shoot for, but it can be up to 15. Images should be high quality. Please make sure they're not blurry or pixelated. And I'll give you a few more tips and tricks on that. And we will need the title, date of completion, medium, and dimensions. Film, video clips should not exceed 5 minutes. If you have a 20-minute film, and this goes for the other things with video, please snip out a relevant portion that you think really highlights your work, that really shows the strength of your work, and please just take out a 5-minute section. It should be on air. You can add 3 samples, and they can be 5 minutes apiece for video. And we will need date, locate, title, names and roles, things like that. And that short summary, if you do snip your video out of a larger video, put that in the summary, and you can give context. You can say, this is a 5-minute clip from a 20-minute film I did. And right before this scene, this happened, and this is leading into this, to give context to the panelist. Obviously, if we're asking you to clip something shorter than it was originally intended to, we would love to have the context of what the full performance video would look like. And this is just saying that again. You would be amazed how many video uploads I get, though. Samples must be your work. Now, I understand with musicians and theater and a lot of other things that obviously there may be other people contributing, i.e. you are a violinist in a quartet, but that's still that's fine, but you can't submit something you had nothing to do with, and the work must be completed within the past 3 years. There is a little wiggle room on this if you have a really great piece, and you haven't, a lot of times it has to do with access to work certain things. When you were in school, you might have had access to all this technology and equipment and tools. So if you want to throw a piece in that's a little bit older, that's fine. But again, we would like to see most of the work be from the past 3 years. Letters of recommendation, you can they are not required, okay, and they are the least important thing. I will tell you, my panels have never cared about the letters of recommendation. And I know at Pitt, it came up one time, and that was only because 2 panelists had tied, or two artists had tied, and so we looked at the letters of recommendation at that point. If either had had a higher score, the letters of recommendation would not have come into play. They should also, if you do decide to have letters of recommendation, they should be people who know your work. We've gotten them from people's pastors talking about what a great person they are. And while that's great, we want to know about your artwork and what people think of your artwork. So maybe another artist, a mentor, um, things like that are great. A teacher, anything like that would be excellent. But you know, again, it needs to be about your artwork. Also, you know, the more recent, the better. I could get a letter of recommendation from my high school art teacher, but that was more than a decade ago, and I haven't really talked to him, so that probably wouldn't be the best one. But you know, um, if I needed it, I guess it might be better than nothing. But again, don't spend a whole lot of time on this part. So to go over what you're gonna need, application profile. That's the PDF download on our website. We'll go over this in a second again. Your narrative, your artist statement, your artist resume, budget support, and other supporting materials, and your work samples and inventory list. And yep. And I'm going to stop this screen share real quick. And we're going to go to the website real quick, just so that I can show you exactly what I mean. Just to go over this application a little bit. So artist support. All right, share screen. So if you go to our website, cravenarts.org, under community, artist opportunities, I imagine most of you can at least have gotten to this page because you were able to sign up for the webinar. You can download the application right here, ASG. There's a PDF and a Word version. If you click these, this is a Excel file for budgets. Now that's only if it's longer. I click this real quick. So this is what's that first part is what they call the applicant profile. Only that we only need the first 2 pages. It's pretty much contact info, things like that, certifying that you are adhering to the rules and the character limits and things like that. Now, to go over grant amounts real quick, $500 to $1,000 range. I will be honest. I would apply for 500 or 1,000, maybe 750. Sometimes we get applications for like $625. The money we receive from the state doesn't really come. It's not easily dividable like that. So if you could hold to a round number, that would be helpful. If you apply for 625 and they really like your application, though, there's a good chance I may call you and say, could you do it for 500, because that's an award we can give. So try and make it a round number. Project period, this should be within, you know, probably November, December through, as I said, it has to be done by December 2022. But the money must be spent by June. So this is budget, which is, let's see. Oh, and here's the budget sheet. You can click it there. You can just do your budget here. That's fine. But if you use this, that's fine. If you only have a few items, feel free to use this page. If you're turning in a print application. Now let me go back real quick, because you don't have to do it by print. If you click this button here, or go up to community and ASG page 1. So let's click this button. There are some files here that you may need, and it's pretty self-explanatory. After watching the grant, you should kind of know where we're going with this. But name, mailing address, county, when did you start living here, phone number, email. Some of this is option, some of this is required. So if it's got a red dot, I do need to know this. If it doesn't, not every artist is going to have a website. That's fine. You know, we don't have to know your race. That's optional, and your medium is also optional. We do need to have this certification. Do need to have your resume and artist statement. Narrative. You'll just upload these files. Click this. Whoops. That was a graphic design project I was working on for someone, and you should be able to upload files. How much are you requesting? Partial funding. So this is if you're applying for 1,000, could you do it with 500? Could you find some money and be able to complete the project if say the panel decides if we only have 500 left after doing our other awards? Sometimes that happens. This is all stuff that's contained in the grant, by the way, or in the write-up and on the website. So, but please do read it. You can upload your budget. After this, you will hit submit. And this will all go away and it will say, thank you for submitting. And then it will say something, please make sure to do your work samples. So once you do this page 1, you're not done. Please don't fill out page 1. If I only see a page 1 or page 2, I will make every effort to email you before the deadline, but please make sure you do it, as we do get kind of busy sometimes. I really will try though. After this page is done and submitted and you see that little message, you can click this one, work sample submissions. Here are the guidelines again that I went over in the PowerPoint, are all up here, just sort of condensed down. We do ask you to put your name back in and your email. That way I can match what you put on page 1 to page 2. Inventory list, because everyone needs one, so it is required. And discipline. I do need to know your discipline here, and you can put other though, because I have to, that will help me when selecting my panelists. If you're doing video links, here are the 3 places to put your links. If you're doing uploads of images or documents, i.e. pictures of art, visual art, or the poems, this is where you would do it. You've got 15 slots here. Everything that's in here, whether it be here or up here, should be on your inventory sheet. And we should have something on your inventory sheet for everything. Ideally, your inventory sheet would correlate to work sample 1, work sample 2. At the very least, it should have the title of the work and the title of the file should match. And then this would be support materials, your budget support items, i.e. a picture of the web page where the price of something is, that shows that's what it costs. A letter of recommendation, things like that. And then you would hit submit here and it would go away and it would say thank you. Now we did split this up so that if you would like to do page 1 and then come back and do page 2, you do have that opportunity by coming here. You can do them separately. Try and do them, within a week of each other. Like I said, I will reach out if I see one page done and not the other. And we will check that as best we can. All right, so I'm gonna stop that and go back to our PowerPoint here. We're almost done. Whoops. I promise. Hold up. I gotta go back up here. Sorry, guys. Share screen. Share. Let's full screen that. All right. If you receive a grant, you will enter a contract with our organization. Anytime you're promoting the project, you will need to use the North Carolina Arts Council logo and credit line, which is, this project was funded by the North Carolina Arts Council, a division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We will send that to you, the logo, the credit line. It doesn't mean every social media post has to have everything in it, but it should say at least that it was funded by the North Carolina. You should really, if you're getting the money, we really want to see you honor the North Carolina Arts Council. And again, projects. Okay, so I forgot to change this line. The old rule was everything had to be done. by June 30th. Oh, I forgot to change the year too. I apologize, everyone. I was using my old slideshow and didn't catch that date. The money must be spent by June 30th, 2022. The project must be done by December 31st, 2022. Okay, let me skip ahead real quick. Oh, yeah. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me. The last slide will have this information up, so I'm going to move past it. Work sample tips. Try and eliminate background noise for anything with a video recording. Trim it down. If there's like a big lead in of someone, that doesn't really deal with your part of the work, you can take that out. Literary. Unless the work itself is intentionally done in a very specific font, try and avoid very odd fonts that make it hard to read. I do know there are some types of poetry and writing that do rely on the use of fonts, and that's fine. But if not, then we would recommend a standard font, Arial, Times New Roman, or Calibri. Visual arts. Have good, clean size photos, at least 72 DPI. Pixlr is an app, an online platform. You don't have to have Photoshop. You can use that to check out the DPI in your images. And here's some tips and tricks for visual artists, at least. Try and have clean backgrounds. This is the image from on the left. There's the wall detracts from it. Also, the color of the wall changes the color of the image slightly. So there's also glare on the image on the left, things like that. Now, don't feel like if you've got some glare in your photos and things like that you cannot apply for this grant. But just, there's some simple things like draping a sheet, tacking a sheet up on the wall and, running it down to the floor for just a nice clean white background that can really help. And we're happy to advise on that sort of thing. Oops. If you're a 3D artist, I hear this complaint all the time that 3D artists say, well, I only get to put one photo, but my object is seen in the round. So how are you supposed to judge it from that one photo? Well, you can make it one image with several photos in it. This is one piece from 3 different angles. Well, 2 angles and a detail shot. So this is a way, counts as one work sample because it's all the same piece. That's valid. It's just shot from different angles. So if you're a 3D artist, you can do this and it'll help you get around the one image rule. Some top tips. The 2 most important things the judges are going to look at are that narrative and your work sample. Like I said, letter support, not as important. Your resume, this is about advancing your career. So we're not looking for sterling, high pedigree resumes. That's not what this grant is about. This grant is to help you as an artist. So we really want to see that in your narrative, and we want to see in your work sample that you're putting the time in as the artist. Those are the most important things. If you apply and you do not receive a grant, please apply again. I get different panelists every year. So just because the panelists this year didn't enjoy the application doesn't mean next year they won't. I applied for this grant 3 times before I received it. Also, some years are lighter than others. Some years we don't get a lot of applications, and that increases your odds. And please feel free to reach out to me or my staff at Craven Arts Council. If you get me your application by August 27th, which is 2 weeks before the deadline, I will proofread it and write you some recommendations. If you send it to me after that, I will not do it. I'm sorry. I just won't have the time. But if you are able to get it to me by that date, I will take the time and make sure that I'm able to read it and send you some of my notes based off of my experiences. And now's time for questions. This is my contact information, but feel free to unmute if you have any questions. I'm going to check the chat and see if anyone put any in there. But you can also reach out by email or phone at any time to contact me. Does anyone have any questions? Where'd the chat go real quick? And now I can't find it. I'm gonna take that out. Um, well, um, well, thank you all for attending. I hope that all of you apply. Um, let's see. It's a really great opportunity. When I received it in 2014, it really helped further my career, and I've watched it further a lot of other artists' careers. So the state gives us this money, and we have to spend it. There's the whole pot they give me, we will give out to artists. We don't keep any of this for ourselves. So there's a little bit of we are allowed to pay the panelists and things like that, but other than that, this money is out here for you guys in this region. So I would really love to see it go to artists in this region. Please spread the word on the opportunity as well. I know I'm always like, if I tell other artists, will I not get it? But there are 8 to 10 grants out there depending on year. So it's a good opportunity. All right. Thank
Jonathan,
you. Yeah, what's up?
Sorry, quick question. Are winners posted publicly online, or is it up to the winner to announce that they've been selected and it's part of the Arts Council grant?
We will do a press release, but it's kind of, as with all of our press releases, it's kind of up to the local news agencies whether they're going to run it. The state will receive all of the names of the winners, and actually they may reach out every year. They try and reach out to each region to at least one artist and kind of do a little feature about them on their social media. So if you do receive a grant, you may also hear from Sydney Stein, who is sort of the head at the state office for this program, or from someone on the marketing team over there. We can also help you draft a press release if you personally would like to do one. That promotional use that I talked about with the North Carolina Arts Council logo, by the way, what a lot of people do is put it on their website in the footer. So at the bottom of the website, they'll put the North Carolina Arts, this artist has received a artist support grant for this year, and they just leave it on there all year. But when they do social media about the project, they'll throw it in there too, the logo and things like that. Any other questions? All right, well, I am gonna hop off of here. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you all have a great night. And please, again, apply and reach out with any questions, concerns, comments that you have. Okay. And this will be posted to the website as well. Probably not tomorrow, but the day after recording of this. So if there was something you're like, what did he say? Go to the website where the webinar sign up will just be a video of this. So have a great night, everyone.